Hello and welcome to Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. This is Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hello, Johanna.
Hi, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
What not to do at the end of the school year.
What not to do?
What not to do.
Oh, there's probably so many things.
I tried to keep the list small.
Well, let's just dive in.
Okay, let's just dive in.
Tell me something not to do.
Countdowns.
Countdown. Don't do countdowns.
Don't do countdowns. There are so many versions of countdowns. There are alphabet-based countdowns. There are like little, those paper chains where you
like
take
an
off
advent
a paper
calendar.
Yes. There are different projects or different themes in the classroom. Anything that helps the kid know how many days of school are left. Danger, danger, danger.
Let's just be frank for a sec. You already have a problem with the way the kids react to the year ending.
Yes.
Why would you choose to emphasize it?
I don't know. To make it worse, I think they think it makes it better. I don't
know. Because they're like, oh, you only need to hold on for 7 more days.
We're going to do it, guys. Just 3 more days. Or we're going to do it just 21 more days. Can you imagine starting again? Oh, it is too much.
I mean, I can imagine because, again, advent calendars are 25 days.
I suppose. That is true. And to be fair, we do use an advent calendar. We maybe shouldn't do that.
But it's a different problem. You're not trying to get them to stay engaged with their non-Christmas life, right? I
always think that the end of the year should be like, when we went to Ireland and the Cliffs of Moher, how it is just green. Well, before they made it all now it's different. It's all
make Ireland great again.
It's all commercialized.
Ugh.
But it used to be that you were in a field that looked like a normal field, and then all of a sudden
drop straight down.
Straight down drop. That's what I want the end of the year to be like.
You want your kids to drop off a cliff.
Yes. When it comes to the end of the year, I want them to be like, I am everything is status quo and normal. Every single day is a learning day. We are here to get things done. We are here to follow the routines and expectations. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what, guys? It's our last day of school today. And then you can have that last day.
And a countdown is the opposite of that.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So don't do that.
Now that I teach an environment where I get different classrooms, I can tell you instantaneously which classes do countdowns and which do not.
So give me your best
Bless their hearts. I love them all dearly, but I can tell.
Give me your best argument for a countdown. Is there one even?
I think it's fun. I will say this. It re-engages the parents. Parents have to pay attention to depending on how you do the countdown. So at the secondary level, a countdown is essentially a calendar that breaks down when different things are due. And they might or might not have parents signing things off, and they'll say things like, the last day for blah, 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 the last day for late work is this day. And then but then they'll incorporate it with a chain where you cut the things off. So they're like, oh, there's only 3 more days for late work to be turned in. So
it helps them keep their mind on deadlines is the theory.
Yes. At the secondary level, they're more deadline. Well, and I think at the elementary level too. It's just a way to re-engage everybody into the fact that the end is coming and we're supposed to gear it up.
But it's a bad idea.
You have deadlines all the time.
Yeah.
It's better, I mentioned in the previous podcast, to have a big performance project that elevates the expectations versus one that's declining the expectations.
No countdowns?
No countdowns. You can have due dates. You've had due dates since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You can have, this is the last day that I'm going to have late work.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Well,
it just seems when you say it out loud, it seems like a bad idea.
It's hard. At the secondary level, I will say it's a little harder because you do want them to realize there's only 2 days until blah, blah, blah date. I would say it's more as long as you keep ramping it up. Like, as long as it's like, this is the last day I'm collecting this work, but then we start a new thing, and now this is until finals. And then so as long as the expectation is ramping up, you can count it down. But if it's...
But you're counting down to the things, not to the end of the school year even then, right?
Oh, yeah, good point.
You're not saying like, oh, well, on T minus 4 days...
Till summer vacation,
then
yes.
this is due. You just say on, you've got 2 days until
good point.
This is due.
You are correct. That is it. You can still have due dates like normal. You can still count down to a due date. Just don't count down to the end of the school year.
Countdown's good for rocket launches, bad for the end of the school year.
Yes. Look at you. Nice.
What else?
Don't talk about the summer.
Okay.
This is a big one. We all want to talk about the summer. We want to talk about what we're going to be doing. We want to talk about summer vacation plans. The kids get really motivated when you use it as a prompt for anything. But all it does is create future problems because it has them living in the future rather than living in the present. So don't talk about the summer. The summer is not coming.
Do you ban yearbooks?
In the classroom during learning time? Yes, there are no yearbooks in the classroom during learning time.
What about I don't know, because isn't that like they get the yearbook out and they talk about...
Yearbooks are not what they used to be, Jared. They don't
need... say...
They have the Snapchat and the face...
You were a great friend. See you next summer. Don't ever change.
I wouldn't be shocked to find out that some schools don't do yearbooks anymore.
Kids these days.
Well, why would they need them?
How will you know to have a great summer and to not ever change?
I mean, I think they're still, done, but it's not what it was when we were a kid.
How will you know about aardvarks if you don't have a set of the Encyclopedia Britannica? Yeah, I suppose, the main reason you have them is so that you can turn old and then go and look at the names and faces of the people that you knew 20 years ago.
But they have a million pictures in their phone. They're
just swimming in photos of everything forever.
Yeah, all they have is a record of everything that's ever happened.
All right. I guess that makes sense.
So it's not that they don't exist and it's not that there isn't a novelty to them, but it's a novelty. It's not like it was when we were in school.
Okay. Well, I'm going to adjust to that while you talk about the next the next thing. We don't need to explain. Don't talk about summer. It's just, again, it defeats the Cliffs of Moher idea of we're going to act like it's not happening until it does.
You'll get them motivated to do that writing assignment, or you'll get them motivated to prepare that speech, but it will not, you're better off having them dream about what's the summer when you're older going to look like, when you're in college or when you're in high school or when you're in middle school. If you need to talk about the summer, don't talk about this coming summer. Pretend future. It's like planning a vacation. You can create motivation in other ways without it connecting to what's immediately happening in a couple of weeks or a couple of days.
What else don't I do?
You do not create a new schedule.
Do not create new schedule.
Yep. All of a sudden, a teacher, for I don't know whatever reason, it's just boggles the mind, they will take the schedule that's been working the entire year and just get rid of it.
What do you mean schedule?
The order, the routine, the process.
For class time?
Yes. We have 42 minutes. This is always what we do. This is the order that we do it in. This is what I do as a teacher. It's easy to become lazy. It's just, as a teacher, it's easy for me to think, I'm just not going to make that overhead today. I'm just not going to have that video today. I'm just not going to do this thing and that thing today. And I fall in the same trap. This is probably the one that I struggle with the most. I tend to do it on the opposite side. I feel like there's not enough time. So I want to cut habits and routines to just make more time in my classroom. But you can pretty much, you can do it one day, but if you're doing it every day, a new schedule, you got trouble on your team.
In some ways rational to think that I don't need to hold the line on discipline or habit as much because there's fewer days left of a consequence for not having. Like if you lose discipline and habit halfway through the year, you got an entire half of the year where the bad habits will cause harm. Whereas now you've only got a few days. But the problem with that logic is it's so much more sensitive now than it would be in the middle of the school year. Yeah, there's less time to do harm, but the harm will escalate much more quickly because as soon as you start signaling that discipline and habit don't matter anymore, they'll absolutely take that signal and run with it.
Yes. The kids need mentally more to do. So keep the same routine, keep the same schedule, but switch it out so the kids become more responsible for the learning and you'll get a better result. Okay, so this is the next thing.
What's the next thing?
Allowing for mental laziness.
Okay.
So like tends to be the time of the year where essentially the teacher and the student will start to use less mental energy. And that energy's got to go somewhere.
So if they're not thinking, they're screwing around?
Oh, they're going to start screwing around. Like that movie that seemed like a good idea, or like you have to make sure that kids are mentally challenged the entire time, or they will start to create things that mentally challenge them. And that probably is picking on the people near them.
Why would you ever think that tolerating mental laziness is a good idea?
Because you kind of just want to phone it in. Because as a teacher, my list is really long. I have to get my grades done. I have to make sure I have all my assessments double checked. I have to figure out if I have kids that didn't learn something. Gosh, I need to go back and see if I can't reteach them and see if I can't give the summative assessment again. See what holes I can't fill in. I've got some kid who's constantly missing days of school, and now I have all these kids who I need to assess. And so I think I'll create something easy for my students to do so that I will have time to do all this extra work because I just want to get the year done. And it does the opposite.
Right. It sounds like a good idea, but surprise.
Yeah. So this is the time when I bring out new learning experiences. Like if I have a day, there is a day where I need to, in fact, last week, I had stuff I needed to do. And I was in the position where I was having to teach more kids than I normally teach. My solution is to get out new things that will cause a new excitement over the learning. And that will keep them engaged. And that will give me the time I need.
Okay. What else don't I do?
That's kind of it. That's what I stuck it to.
Okay. So I can recap them?
I think so, yeah.
I can recap them and you're not going to introduce something new?
I'm probably totally going to introduce something new. But let's go for it.
It's against the rules. Number 1, countdowns. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Why emphasize the problem? Essentially, the problem is there's only a few days left before this thing ends. And that changes everyone's personal calculations of the consequences and motivations.
Yes.
Why advertise it? That's exactly what your problem is.
I don't know. But it's also infectious. It spreads like a virus throughout the school. The countdown has started. Oh, it's the worst when people that are like in positions of power start mentioning the countdown. Then it's all downhill.
Number 2. Don't talk about this coming summer.
Yes.
Which won't be a problem because no one has your books anymore, which is sad. But same basic problem as the countdown is you want them to be thinking about what they're going to do for the rest of the school year, not thinking about it being over and what they're going to do then.
Right.
You're like the cliffs. Just all of a sudden there's a drop off.
All of a sudden it's just dropped off.
You'll have plenty of time to adjust to it actually being summer.
The last day of school.
We don't really need you to spend school time planning for how summer's going to go.
Yeah, the very last day that you have kids, if you are not giving a final and you want to throw out everything, go for it. I do it too. But that's to be expected.
Sure.
Yeah, then you can make it fun and memorable and an experience everyone likes. Doesn't need to last 4 days.
Don't abandon number 3.
Number 3.
Don't abandon your schedule your habits, your discipline of how the classroom is supposed to run.
I thought of something.
Here we go.
People will stop using their behavior management plan. Don't do that.
I'm just going to include that in this, so
Okay.
you're not accidentally actually introducing new content.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
Okay.
Behavior management plan. Talk a little bit.
Same deal. And you'll even get parents where you're following your behavior management plan. You have a kid who has never had a problem before. And you call home and it turns out they're going on this great vacation and they're doing a countdown at home. And all of a sudden you're like, you gotta help. Parents will be your enemy here if you don't help create a way that parents realize we are ramping it up. The behavior expectations stay the same.
Because even though you're right that none of it matters as much anymore, you're wrong because it matters more. Because the start of the lack of discipline will cause the whole thing to go fall apart and you'll lose the entire classroom.
Well, and little
whatever
kids,
time is left.
It will make them feel really insecure.
That leads to behavior
they are
in its own right.
Yeah, they're already insecure and nervous. It's a new class. Little kids, they'll be so scared. They'll be like, well, what if I can't find my new classroom? Well, what if this? Well, what if that? They get, well, what do you mean you won't be my teacher anymore? They can really wig out.
Mm-hmm.
And so keeping it consistent makes them feel safe, and then you don't have behavior problems associated to anxious fear.
Sure. Number 4. Don't tolerate mental laziness, and especially don't encourage it.
Yes.
If you might think, because you've got other priorities now to close out your year, that we'll take it easy on them. We'll give them something easy.
We'll give them something fun.
And then they won't have to work, and they'll be happy. And then they'll leave me alone while I can do what I need to get done.
You can
no. That's bad thinking.
You can still make it fun, but it's got to be new and mentally curious and interesting. And
because if they're not engaging their mind for thinking or learning, they'll engage it for making themselves not bored.
Yes, they will, because they're thinking about the countdown, because they're thinking about the end of the school year, because it's just a cycle of nervous rabbit bunny until all of a sudden it's like and it's off. You can't do anything about it.
So that was the 4th item on my 4-thing countdown before the end of this episode, which means that it's over now.
We did it. We can fall off the cliff.
Which is pushing stop on the record button, I think.
No, I think we stopped by saying, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Johanna, do you get questions from listeners ever?
Yes, we do.
How do those listeners send you questions?
They send us an email.
Where does that email go?
teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
But wait, what kind of 4? How do I do 4?
All of the 4s. They can do a number 4. They can write the word FOR, or they can do FOUR, even though that one doesn't quite make sense.
Well, perfect. teachertalk4teachers@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.